Hello, hello, Balance Mamas. Welcome back to the Balance Mama Project Radio. You are here with Dr. Val and Dr. Say, and a woman who needs no introduction, but we're still going to give her one anyway. Your favorite licensed clinical social worker, Janelle Carrington. Also, Reiki Master, because that is the topic of the day. Welcome, Janelle.
Hi,
Welcome,
thank you so
welcome.
much for having me back.
Uh, So I know it's not dropping at the top of the new year, but it is early in the new year, and it's great to see you.
Mhm.
See you guys.
And so, just to kick us off, um, and Dr. Val, I know you are also a Reiki practitioner, so feel free to jump in and out. Janelle, you are a Reiki master, so we are going to let you have final say, of course.
Yeah.
But can you tell us about what exactly is Reiki energy healing? What is that? So our audience will know before we do a deep dive.
No, for sure. So Reiki is a non-invasive, gentle energy modality that is used to help with resting the nervous system, essentially. It's simple.
I like it. And when did you first learn about it? Like how were you introduced?
Yeah, so I was first introduced to Reiki when I was already very well into my clinical and mental health work.
Mhm.
Um, I was a social worker, and actually, if I want to go back further, I was first introduced to it at Johns Hopkins when I was working at Kennedy Krieger, and they had energy work on children's traumatic brain injury unit, and that was the first time I was sparked with energy healing and saw that it was something that was invited in along other modalities. So later on, a few years later, then that's when I tried Reiki for myself for the first time. And from its effects, I really wanted to get into it a little bit more and figure out how I can use it to help my clients.
Mhm. Awesome, awesome.
Mhm.
And so, with your clients, what do they tell you? How do they express that they've experienced Reiki? What are they feeling? What is it like? I know sometimes people will go into it and just kind of be like, I have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, yeah. And I like people like that, to be
Hmm.
honest.
Hmm.
It's okay not to know what to expect. What's most important when it comes to Reiki is about openness. You
Yeah.
know, since it's energy work, if you are feeling like closed off or like really skeptical, it does kind of get into the way of really allowing it to do what it does. So, coming into a Reiki session, a lot of clients are like, how does this work? I work virtually also, so it adds another layer of
Yeah.
question about how is it going to work if we're not in the same space. So,
Mhm.
a lot of effects after a Reiki session that clients talk about is really falling asleep. A lot of people fall asleep. A
Mhm.
lot of people feel maybe a deep sense of rest. Others have experienced maybe clarity about a situation that was really bothering them. Maybe they felt like they were in this thought loop, negative thought loop, where they would keep going over and over again about how to control something, how to fix something. And being in that space of rest had allowed them to um, maybe accept the outcome a little bit more, not trying to have so much control in the situation. So it definitely varies what kind of experiences people have. Some people have physical sensations where maybe they feel a little bit of tingling, maybe a little bit of heat, maybe they feel cold. Some people don't feel anything at all. And that doesn't mean that, Reiki didn't do anything, but sometimes it just means everybody has a different experience and trusting the energy to kind of show up and manifest the way that it does during the sessions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it the nail on the head with that one. So if I were someone who was coming to see you for mental health therapy, what would be an indicator that would be a good candidate for Reiki? And because I kind of want to also, after you answer, put a maybe a thought out there about individuals who are going through physical therapy and how that might show up. But for you in your practice, how does that show up for you?
Sure, that's a really good question. Because some people may be a candidate for Reiki and psychotherapy together, because you can do that. But others may be better suited for just Reiki alone outside of just psychotherapy. So some things that I kind of look for is first a conversation about it. How well do you understand Reiki? That's really important um, in terms of just, ethics and transparency to make sure that people understand like what's the limitations, what it can do, what it cannot do. That's important as well. Ability to kind of already practice some coping skills. Sometimes Reiki can bring up a little bit discomfort at times, not for discomfort's sake, but if we are working on healing and we're working on healing trauma, that can just bring up some memories that can be deeply buried. Reiki and energy can go where words can't. So sometimes we're not expecting maybe, hey, I'm having some back pain, or maybe I'm feeling frustrated about this trauma or something that's happened, and then a memory or a feeling or a sensation can come up. So ability to be able to be transparent and also talk to the practitioner. I really encourage, like, if you're feeling uncomfortable or something is coming up, like being able to let me know. So that trust and that bond is definitely important as well, between, practitioner and client, to make sure that clients are feeling comfortable and I'm able to also explain what's going on during the process. They can tell me back if they're experiencing anything as well. So those are some of the things that I just kind of look for in the beginning when someone's a little bit interested in Reiki.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about first there needing to be like an interest in Reiki, because the energy can be blocked sometimes, or not necessarily well received if there's resistance there. So someone just actually even expressing interest can be a really good gateway. And then when I think about how I started with Reiki, it was after getting doing yoga teacher training and then getting introduced to Reiki. But at the same time, I was studying for my NCS and or my neurologic certified specialist exam, and seeing a lot of chronic pain in my practice. And with PT and chronic pain, there can be a lot of hypersensitivity of that nervous system, a lot of ramping up of that nervous system. And so I was finding a lot of parallels between there being potentially some physical pain that is manifesting, along with the experiences that people have had in their lives. And with PT, we get a lot of great quality time with our patients where we get to hear all of their stories. And from that, I was like, there's got to be a way to marry these two. And so, how do you feel like this ties in? How do you feel like energy healing ties into the prenatal and postpartum population?
Yeah, no. So, prenatal, postpartum, those are definitely times where, you feel a little bit thrown from your body at times. It's a lot of changes going on. It's a lot of things that are unexpected. It's a lot of, okay, I need to prepare for this. I need to worry about that. I need to look out for these kinds of things. So it's a great modality to kind of help with allowing the nervous system to rest, because that can feel so difficult during that time. Bodies can feel so vulnerable too, especially when I think about postpartum. So being able to have that reset of your nervous system and also your emotional well-being as well. Like, going through birth is a big deal. I don't have to tell you guys. So, Reiki allows that space where a mama doesn't have to do anything. It's so many other things to do. Reiki doesn't ask you to do anything. It doesn't ask you to have to talk about anything, process anything, journal anything. Just lay here. Just lay here, just do your thing, and I will do my thing, and that is all that's required. So it's a great way for moms to kind of have something else in their toolkit where it's not like another thing that I have to check off the list. It's something that I just get to go to and receive, when that can feel really hard for moms to just receive. It can feel like I have to do everything.
I love that. So, yes, being in the PT space, I'm like, yes, exercise, do your active task, make sure you're working. But in a very real sense, that postpartum space, even the pregnancy space, there's so much to be said about not being asked to do anything, because there is a lot of competing factors. People are already trying to figure out, well, what does my new self look like? Am I taking care of my tiny? What about my family? Well, what about my friends? Do I have to do chore A, B, and C. Like, I have had some people even come into the clinic where I'm like, it's not looking like an exercise day. It's looking like a lay here on the heating pad day. And instead of laying on the heating pad, I think at least with the type of restfulness. So I have not tried Reiki. Disclaimer, guys. I am more interested in hearing the conversation and then seeing where I land. Um, but I think there's so much to be said of an intentional resting of the mind. Because I'm like, even if you're laying on the heating pad or if you're laying in your bed, it doesn't mean that you are actually resting. You can still have the racing thoughts. You can still have your chore list. And so I love that you're like, yes, often people fall asleep because sometimes it is difficult to fall asleep with your chore list and with your 99 to-dos or to truly feel relaxed, even if you are relaxing, quote unquote.
Mhm.
And so I love that you shared it. I'm kind of curious about what does, I know Reiki, or at least I think Reiki is a more newly or a newly emerging practice. Where does it fit? Where does it fit in the research? Where does it just fit in the healing practices in the, we can say, medical or non-medical model?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really an important question and a question I definitely welcome. And I'm going to put a disclaimer and say that's something people should ask for when they're looking for a Reiki practitioner. Um, so Reiki was discovered in the early 1900s. So it's something that's been around for a while. It seems to have been getting more conversation, with social media, with people are looking for other different modalities, that now it's being, introduced a little bit more. Um, as of research right now, we're like just in a really exciting time when it comes to Reiki and science, because right now, Reiki is ahead of science where people are talking about it more clinicians, more doctors are learning about its existence, are asking those questions about how do we move with the research? How do we research this? How do we tell that if clients are seeing any differences when it comes to an intervention with Reiki or energy work, where people can see the differences. So research is still developing, which I like that. I like to kind of be at the forefront of, hey, these conversations and, advocating for that. Like, yes, we want more research. We want to be able to have that scientific backing when it comes to Reiki, because it is important. And even though it may not be as much research, there is some. We definitely want more. So, because clients are already feeling it, people who've had Reiki are already talking about how it's helping them and the benefits that they're seeing. Um, Again, science, human experience often is ahead of, science and its technology, but that's nothing new to science in general. So, I'm excited that more research and more conversation is happening around Reiki.
hmm Yeah, I've been noticing that too, and I agree with you. Anyone who is going into Reiki, I welcome uh, individuals are be curious about what's in the literature. Is this, what's happening? And I used to send out articles all the time about Reiki's use in cancer rehab and management of cancer pain specifically. I think that's a field where, or that's an area where it's more robustly used in the medical field. And also, I will say there's been a lot more research, I think, amongst nurses as well. But one study that was recent, I think it was, let's see, maybe within the last decade or so, but it talked about the comparison between Reiki and understanding quantum physics. And so a lot of also what like Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about, where he talks about particles, very tiny particles having very curious properties, and how human bodies were really evolutionized from matter and atoms and things like that. That's kind of a way to conceptualize what's happening with Reiki. So this study talked about how with quantum physics, you can think about how particles in your body, atoms in your body, things are always changing, and thinking about how those things are working, and then thinking about any energy that comes into them is also transmuting them and changing them as well. And so that's kind of a way to conceptualize what is actually happening with Reiki. There's this kind of life force energy that's coming from the atmosphere and the world and the environment and coming into the body to help to transform and transmute some of this energy within your body that has been transformed and transmuted over time based on life experiences and things like that. Um, so now I went on a diatribe, but there are a lot of different, I mean, I could nerd out all day long with quantum physicists. Not that I know much about it, but the little teeny bits that I pick up, I'm like, it's so fascinating to me. But one of the other ways that I conceptualize Reiki, and I want to know, Janelle, if you feel the same, but and one way that I conceptualize it is that we are made up of all of these different tiny cells and atoms and things like that. And like you were saying earlier, Janelle, we are also made up of primarily water, and these atoms are bouncing around. And I think thinking about the chakras and going into thinking about the different frequencies that these atoms are moving in, I think it helps me to understand that we are not just a physical body, but these atoms that are bouncing up against each other are creating a frequency, creating an energy, creating something intangible. And those frequencies are what we are working with on the energy level. Whereas if we sprain our ankle, we're working on a physical body. If we are blocked with trying to get a job, we are working with our mental body. But there's just layers to us. And so anyway, could talk all day about it. And but those are the things that I love to research and look up about in terms of Reiki, because I think it's fascinating, and the literature just continues and continues to develop, as you were mentioning.
Oh, when you were like, I can nerd out about quantum physics all day. I was like, don't get me started. um,
That's hilarious.
I'll have 17 million questions and then 17 more and some Google searches on top of that. I was like, it'll be a time. But
Amazing. I
thank you
love
for
that.
the breakdown. I appreciated it. When you mentioned Reiki being used in the populations who have cancer, I was kind of curious because I think it can be used in, like you said, chronic pain, folks with cancer, pelvic health. I can see it being used in varying populations. I also think of acupressure, acupuncture as a practice that's typically a little bit more, well, I'll say what is well suited for chronic pain. Some of the more, yeah, some of the more chronic issues. Um, what are your thoughts on Reiki used in combination with acupressure, acupuncture?
I definitely love that. I think it's a great idea. I want to see it more often.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. I agree. It's one of those things where I will recommend whatever works best for individuals. Some people are like, I can't stand needles. Okay, well, acupuncture might not be your thing. Maybe you try acupressure, but I will always lean into an allied health field or a healing practice. Even also yoga as well as something adjunct to what individuals are getting in the medical side.
Tai Chi. Y'all know I
Tai
love Tai
Chi.
Chi. I
Yeah,
had
you
to.
better
When you
shout it
talk about
out.
life force, I was like, Tai
You
Chi.
better shout it out. Yes, absolutely.
So it does seem like you can use it in conjunction with a great number of things. I know that you both have mentioned, things that you should consider asking your Reiki practitioner. Do you have any advice for identifying a solid Reiki practitioner? What to look for?
Yeah, for sure. Credentials are important, but I also like to say presence is also important as well. How are you feeling around a Reiki practitioner? even though that's not a definite question you're asking, but paying attention to how your body is responding to that practitioner. Because if Reiki is asking you to be open and to be restful, if you're not feeling comfortable, it's not really going to, serve you in the best way. So you can definitely ask questions to your practitioner about their philosophy, about their ethics, about their boundaries. You want it to feel like it's something collaborative. Something also to look out for if, as I'm so excited that I'm trying to say all the words at one time and I can't get any out.
Nothing wrong
Me
with it.
too. Me too. It's all good.
Oh goodness. But looking out if they're making brand promises or definite outcomes to say you'll definitely feel like this, you should look for this to be healed and go away, or for them to position themselves as the energy is coming from them, that's also a big red flag and you should definitely get out of there. So it should be a collaborative conversation, for sure, about your comfort level, boundaries, um, and also credentials and presence as well.
I love the breakdown. Even when you mentioned if someone is saying the energy is coming from them. Because, y'all, do you know, like I said, I typically have 70 questions. Um, and I even have questions on like the interconnection of faith and Reiki. So when people are like, it's coming from me. And I'm like, well, yes, what are your thoughts?
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So faith isn't really necessary for Reiki, but it can definitely help. Some people who have experienced Reiki find that it can help with just maybe deepening their own faith and their own beliefs, which are great. Um, it's not something that interferes with someone's spiritual beliefs. So if you're feeling, Reiki curious, but also, thinking about your own spiritual beliefs, I think that's a good conversation too to have with a practitioner because they want to know that. They want to be able to make you feel comfortable and not that it's something that's competing with your faith. It's more something that could be used to kind of deepen your faith.
I like it. I like it. Because I remember even having someone ask me about, they're like, I'm a Christian. And I don't know if I should do Tai Chi or not. And I was like, I too believe in Jesus and I am the Tai Chi instructor. I think that we can have a longer conversation another day, but I think you will be just fine participating. So it's always interesting to hear where practitioners lie, what preferences are. Um,
I have to also interject just to shout out yoga too. Neither yoga nor Reiki nor Tai Chi or acupuncture for that reason highlights any sort of religious beliefs or practice any sort of religious beliefs. And I think I don't know if this was your question, Saya, but you mentioned the intersection, and I think when I think about similarities, I will say that in Christianity, for example, or in a lot of religions, there's this spiritual connection and spiritual experience to things that are intangible. And in a lot of ways, when we're working with the energy body, whether it's in Tai Chi, yoga, or Reiki, there are things that are sometimes unexplainable, or inexplicable. There are sometimes things that are just intangible, and that I think is what the energy healing and the energy world is because we can't see it, we can't feel it.
that's
But
fair.
there's no real competition or anything, as Janelle was saying, with religion.
I like it. I like it a lot because you're right. It was like it doesn't have to be a competition. It does not have to be. I must be in this specific faith to practice this, and so
Yeah.
I can appreciate the answers for that.
Yeah, for sure. And if I want to jump in real quick, because,
Yes.
that conversation around, something you can't see, but you can feel, that's not something that is unknown to the human experience. So a lot of times, I like to kind of just use other real world ways that we kind of already know aren't magic, aren't competing with spirituality. If I, have two magnets and one is pushing against the other, I can feel the resistance. I can't see what's happening there, but I know it's a magnetic force. That's not something
Hmm.
that's magic. That's not anything that's competing. So it's already well known in science that there are so many things that we cannot see that has an effect. I can't
Hmm.
see heat from the sun, but I can definitely feel it. So we know these things
Yes.
exist. So I find that sometimes talking about it in that sense kind of helps conceptualize and then brings it back grounded to kind of say, like, it's not magic.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, it's very scientific and something that, we experience every single day with so many things.
I like that you mentioned that. That actually reminds me what I used to do with individuals who were, I'm going to use your phrase, Reiki curious. I would say, okay, let's practice this. Let's generate our own heat because, like you were saying, you can feel the heat from the sun, but you can't see it, you can't touch it. And I usually have people put their hands together. It's usually in a yoga practice, but we'll use our hands to create the friction. We'll generate some heat, and then we can put our hands a close distance apart, feel that heat that we've generated, and then we can also use that heat to warm our bodies and use our heat to ground ourselves. And so that's another way where you can generate this energy that you cannot. It's not tangible, but you've generated it, and you can feel it within yourself.
For sure.
The breakdown is 10 out of 10, gang. While we're on the explanation journey, I am also curious about how Reiki affects the nervous system, whether directly or indirectly. Also, something we're not necessarily looking at on the day to day.
Yeah. So what Reiki does is it wants to help support the nervous system from moving out of fight or flight to rest and digest. So we want to get to a space where our nervous system feels supported, where we're feeling relaxed, and that our body is able to function outside of a space of hypervigilance and being very tense. So that is how Reiki directly impacts the nervous system. And some things that you'll experience indirectly is more kind of like maybe the emotional clarity that you receive, after Reiki, maybe feeling less tense. Also, after a Reiki session, just feeling a bit more balanced in life. So it definitely works with the nervous system in that way. With, again, all the excitement, with supporting the parasympathetic nervous system, have to break that down,
Yep.
and allowing it to rest.
Yep. I have no notes. That is exactly what it does. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Are there any final things that you would like to share with our mamas out there who are still curious, I mean, I think you had a lot of great tips for how to find a practitioner, what to look for in a practitioner, um, you know, ways to conceptualize Reiki. Are there any final tips that you might want to share with any of our mamas?
Yeah, I think definitely an important part is you're feeling a little bit curious. Definitely look up some information for yourself too. There are many different practitioners out there, many of them having their own little flavors and ways of practicing Reiki. So if you're feeling curious, that's a good start. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to go anything with it right away, but maybe just kind of getting that information, finding out what it is, thinking about how it can help support you, and maybe being a little brave and kind of going outside of your normal coping skills toolbox and allowing yourself to say, this is something that I'm interested in, and maybe let me give it a shot for myself, for my own mental health, for my emotional health and well-being, because, mamas are definitely doing that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. If you all are out there listening right now and curious or want to know more, want to reach out to a practitioner or Reiki master, you are more than welcome to drop down into the details of this episode and find Janelle Carrington's contact information. Janelle, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciated this rich discussion about Reiki.
Thank you.
All right, and stay balanced, Mom. Till next time.